My name is Gabby, and I'm here to talk about going to Walt Disney World solo. So usually I go to Walt Disney World with my mom, but this past month I actually went to Walt Disney World solo. And let me tell you, it was the best experience I've ever had. I went for 5 days. I don't regret it at all. And I got asked a few questions as to how I went by myself, what did I do when I was by myself, was I nervous? So I'm here to explain that and also explain my experience. First, making the plans. So was I afraid when I was making the plans going solo? A little. But as my days were getting closer to my vacation, the nervousness went away as the days went on. So I say go when you're ready. If you don't feel like you're not ready to go by yourself, don't force yourself to go solo. I felt like I was ready to go by myself this time because I've been to Disney countless amount of times. So I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew what to do, what not to do, how to deal with the crowds. So I knew I was ready. But if you are not ready, I suggest don't go because you want this experience to be the best you've ever had. For me, I made it the best experience I've ever had because I knew what to do. If you've only been there a couple times, I say wait. I say go with some friends and stuff until you feel more comfortable. But on the other hand, if you feel like, hey, I'm ready to go, be my guest, go. Go do it. Nobody's telling you not to do it. So that's what I did. Nobody knew I was going solo. I just up and did it. So I say go when you feel like you're most ready to. Now I do have to say, going solo, you are going to have some issues with money. I noticed when I go with my mom, when we get rooms, we split the room. When you go solo, you aren't splitting the room with anybody. You're paying for the room yourself. So that's the only downside is to going by yourself is it gets pricey. And same thing with the food. My mom and I, we would get one meal and we would split it. Whereas to buying 2 separate meals. Well, here you're buying one meal for yourself and the meal is yours. So you're kind of spending more money than if you were going with somebody else. Now, there are times where you get discounts on rooms. Like me, I got discount on my room because they had some sort of offer. Disney had some sort of offer out there. Or if you're annual pass holder, sometimes they have discounts on the rooms. So I say take advantage of that because it's just worth it. It's totally worth it. When I got there and when I checked in, I was pretty nervous as to, okay, are they going to know that I'm here by myself? Are they going to, say it out loud like, oh, she's here by herself? They're not going to do that. When I checked in, I scanned my Magic Band and they saw I was by myself. So they said, okay, for one? And I said, yep. And they said, okay, your room's ready. Here's your room. You're good to go. They didn't question as to, oh, why are you here by yourself? Aren't you with anybody else? They just said, okay, and went on with their day. So that was pretty nice. I mean, I have no issue saying, yeah, I'm here by myself. But if other people have issues saying, okay, I am here by myself, and they get nervous, they see it all the time, and it's not something that you should be nervous about. So a few days before I went to Disney called me and they said, so since you're going by yourself, would it be okay if you got a preferred room with a king size bed? I said, yeah, I would like that. Why not? I'm by myself. Why do I need 2 beds? Why do I need 2 queen size beds? So, and then I also asked, am I going to have to pay extra for that? I said, nope, you are good to go. I said, score. I get to have a king size bed and a bigger bathroom in a preferred room, and I paid for a standard room. So it was nice, but I went during a busy time of the year, so they probably wanted to fill those rooms up with a more bigger crowd. Now, I do have to say, speaking of going at a busy time, if you're going solo, I suggest you go at a more slower time. I went in June, early June, and I've never been during that time of the year. It is packed. It is hot. I'm from Chicago. I am not used to that heat and that amount of people. So if you're going to go solo, I suggest going during like the off seasons when there's not many people, because you were by yourself. You kind of want to get things done and go on one ride, then go on another, and not waste your time. But if you go during a busy time, you're going to be dealing with that crowd. I mean, one of the wait times was 60 minutes. And I'm like, I have to wait in that line? I'm just only one person. Do I really have to wait in that line? And I had to wait in that line because nothing else was shorter than that. So it kind of took away from the fun. But in the meantime, as I was waiting in line, I met some people. I was talking to them. So I did have fun. Don't get me wrong. But I suggest if you're going solo, go when it's a slower time and when it's not so hot. I mean, if you could deal with the heat and the crowds, be my guest, go. But if you're like me and don't like the big crowds or the heat, go at a different time. That I kept getting asked was going to the parks by myself. Was it nerve-wracking? Was I awkward? Well, it was pretty nerve-wracking in the beginning because, like I said, I didn't know, how it was going to be like. This was my first trip. But once I got to Magic Kingdom, that was my first park that I went to, it all went out the window because you just see all these people. People are not paying attention to you. They aren't paying attention to you, why you're by yourself, what you're doing. They're paying attention to themselves, their family, and their plans. So don't worry about if people are watching you or if they're feeling bad for you that you're going by yourself. They aren't worried about you. Trust me. And you start to realize you're not even paying attention to them because you're worried about your own thing. So that's just how it is. That's how it all works. And I'm a planner and I made a schedule for myself. So the first thing I did when I went in was I went on Pirates. And so when I got in, I just focused on going on to Pirates. And then after that, I had plans to go on something else. So I really wasn't worried if people were watching me. I just had a set plan and I did it. And I didn't have anything else to worry about. So going to the parks solo didn't bother me. Even going on the bus to get to the parks, that didn't bother me either. Because honestly, you are the only one that's gone to Disney solo or is there solo. I've met numerous people that have went solo or were there solo. So you're not alone, and you have a bunch of people that you can make friends with in the lines and so on. So don't feel awkward being at the parks. Just have fun. It's no big deal. Nobody's paying attention to you. The other thing that you may feel nervous about is going on the rides solo. It's okay to say only one person because when you go on the rides and right before you get on, they ask you how many. And you either say like 2, 3, 4, and so on. But this time you're saying 1. Now, the first day, I was kind of nervous, not gonna lie, and I just held up a 1 when they asked me. But, like I said, once you get the hang of it, I then was saying, just 1. And they said, okay, go on. It's not like I said before, they're not gonna pinpoint, oh, so you're by yourself? They're not gonna do that. So they just say, okay, go on in. So there's nothing really to be nervous about saying only 1. And then there are some rides that have single rider lines. I highly recommend taking advantage of that. I took advantage of it and it was fantastic. I went on, okay, so the rides that have the single rider lines are Everest, Rock and Roller Coaster, Test Track, and maybe Flight of Passage. When I went down, they didn't have single rider line open, but I heard that there might possibly be a single rider line. I hope that there is, but there might be. But so far, only Everest, Test Track, and Rock and Roller Coaster. I wasn't able to ride Test Track because every time I went, it broke down. So I didn't get a chance to ride Test Track. But I did ride Everest and Rock and Roller Coaster. Everest I rode a few times. And so, okay, what single rider line is you say there's a family of 3, 5, like an odd number. And Everest has 2 seats per row. So if there's a family of 3, there's going to be a seat open. What single rider does is that one person could fill that spot. So I'm not with anybody, so I don't care who I sit next to. So that was very nice because then you could kind of beat the line. Instead of waiting standby, when you could go in the single rider, you get on faster, number one. Number two, what's the point of waiting in line when there's a single rider line, when you are a single rider? Though, I do have to say, now I rode Everest a few times. Rock and Roller Coaster I only rode once. I looked at the standby line. It's 120 minutes. Now, mind you, I went at a busy time. I went after the kids got out of school, so it was busy. So, this has a single rider line. I thought, okay, well, since I'm a single rider, I get to go on faster. Well, I waited about an hour to get on a Rock and Roller Coaster. Because what I noticed was some families were going into single rider lines to not be in the 120-minute wait. And that's okay, but you gotta realize if you are going with a group and you go on single rider line, you are gonna be split up. Because the person that was in front of me, I wasn't sitting next to them. I wasn't even in the same car as them. So you have to look at it that way as, yeah, you could ride single rider line, but you're not going to be together. But then it kind of takes away as single rider because, again, I'm by myself. I want to ride single rider because I can get on the ride faster because I'm only one person. I got on it within an hour. So that sucked. I only got to ride it once. But like I said, you take advantage of that single rider line. That helped out so much. Another thing that happened to me was when I was waiting in line for Flight of Passage in Pandora was, again, they didn't have single rider. I hope that they do, but at the time that they didn't. So I was waiting in line. I waited like a half hour, and then all of a sudden I heard one of the cast members say, "Hey, is there anybody riding solo?" So I said, "Me." So I said, "Okay, come on up." I got to go on the ride right away. I got to pass all these people and got to go on the ride before. So you might get, and that actually happened to me twice. And so there could be times where that happens. You never know. But I wish there was more single rider lines. I don't want to wait in the long lines. But like I told you, go when it's slower. It'll be much better that way. But if you are going a busier time, take advantage of the single rider lines. It is fantastic. But I still use FastPass Plus. I say still use it, but watch how you do the rides. Now, there's also things to do while you're waiting in line. Like there's some rides that don't have single rider lines, obviously. So what do you do when you're waiting in line? Well, what I did was, obviously when there was service in the ride, before you get farther into the ride, I called my mom and I was telling her like, oh, what I was doing, what I'm going on, and so on, to kind of kill time. I take a lot of photos. I love photography. So I brought my camera out and I'm looking at my photos and checking up to see, okay, what thing do I need to take more photos of? And also, I'm a big talker. I like to talk to people. I talk to people in front of me, behind me, across from me, whatever. So I made new friends just to kill time. But also what I did too was I got to look at the details. When I was in Pirates, that is my all-time favorite ride. I never really got to look at the details because I always went when I just walked on. I never had to really wait. So I never really got to look at the details. And so I actually looked around. I'm like, I never noticed that before. So it's kind of cool to, experience that. So there are plenty of things to do when you're waiting in line. I saw somebody had one of those game things going on, or you're on your phone looking at stuff. So there's a lot of things to do. And like I told you, nobody's paying attention to you that you're by yourself. So don't worry about it. Another thing that I do have to say is when you are by yourself and if they do ask, oh, are you by yourself? If you don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, I'm by myself, you could always say, well, my family doesn't like this ride, so I'm going on this ride. Or my family is going back to the room, but I want to stay at the park longer, so I thought, hey, I want to go on this ride. So there's things that you could say if you don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, I'm by myself. But like I told you, you aren't the only one going solo. I'm going to keep saying that is you're not the only one going solo. So just keep that in mind. So another thing to do is eating by yourself. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. If you feel comfortable eating like a sit-down restaurant, go for it. If you don't, there's, other options. What I did was I had reservations for Be Our Guest for lunch twice. And at first, I felt a little awkward, going in because I'm like, now I'm literally sitting down at this big table, eating by myself, and everybody else is sitting down eating, and they're going to stare at me. Once again, nobody's paying attention to you. So don't worry about that. They're paying attention to their food, they're eating, they're hurrying up so they can go on to their next activity. So don't even worry about that. What I did to kind of keep myself busy, since I don't have anybody to talk to, I called my mom, I called my dad, I looked at my photos again, I looked at my phone, I was, talking to my friends. So I had stuff to do. I was also looking around at the scenery, like, oh, look at the photos and stuff, look at the snow outside the window, Be Our Guest in the ballroom. So there's stuff to do. And like I said, cast members don't say, oh, you're by yourself. They just give you the food and they say, enjoy. And they walk away. So to me, I felt fine. But if you aren't comfortable with that, there's other options. Like having snacks or quick service to where you could get your food and go and walk around and eat. What I did was I would go to the parks in the morning, and then around 11 o'clock-ish, I would go back to the room. But what I did was I would go to the food court, because number one, at the food court at the hotel is cheaper than eating at the parks, depending on where you're at. But I would go, I got some chicken nuggets, and I went back to my room. And I ate in there. Now you could eat at the food court, that's fine, but the reason why I did it was because, again, I went in a busy, hot summertime, so I wanted to get away from people. I wanted to get away from that heat. I wanted to just be in the room, because then when I was done eating, I just wanted to relax and do that. So there's that, where you could bring the food back to your room, or you could walk around with the food. Also, what I did was, after I came back from the parks in the evening, I got myself breakfast for the next morning. I just got like a chocolate croissant, and I brought it back to the room. So then when I woke up, I ate right away, whereas going to the food court to eat breakfast with all those people at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's better to just eat in the room. But that's just my opinion. If you feel like going to the food court, go to the food court. If you feel like eating in the parks, go in the parks. But there is different options to make yourself feel comfortable. But you need to know what makes you more comfortable. If you feel comfortable going to a sit-down restaurant, then go to a sit-down restaurant. Nobody's watching, and who cares? And if you are not that comfortable, you could have snacks or you could bring it back to the room. It's not that I wasn't uncomfortable. It's just, for me, it was because I wanted to get away from the amount of people and the heat, because you can only handle it for a certain amount of time. But that was a good option for me to do. Don't be afraid to make plans or even thinking about going to Disney solo. I had the most fantastic vacation. I can't even express the amount of excitement that I had going by myself. At first I was nervous, but that goes out the window. And like I told you numerous times, no one is paying attention to you. I know that's the biggest thing that people have, is they get nervous if people are watching them and feel bad for them and kind of pinpoint you out. They don't do that at all. They, like I said, they focus on themselves and their plans. So you just do you. That's what I did. And go during a slow time. That is a number one big thing that I have to say. Unless if you wanted experience going with the big crowds and the heat, be my guest. But I would have probably enjoyed it just a tiny bit more if I went during a slower time. I usually go either early spring, September, or November. Those are the 3 times I go. But this is the first time I've ever experienced it in the summer, and I'm not going to go again. Just because, like I said, I'm from Chicago. I don't deal with that heat. Even though I'm going to be moving down to Florida, but right now I'm adjusted to Chicago weather, not Florida weather. So it's really up to you what you can handle. And crowds, when you're going solo, it's better off to go when it's a slower time rather than going when it's busier. But like I said, if you rather go at that time, be my guest. But don't regret a single thing about it. I don't regret anything from that trip at all. Even though I complained about going when it's busy and hot out, I don't regret it at all. It was the best experience I've ever had. And I hope everybody gets to experience that, even for just like a weekend or a day. Just experience it. You won't regret it. It's the most fantastic time. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. I'm actually planning on going on another solo trip in the future. And I can't tell you how much it makes me happy because I finally did it. After all these years, I was like, you know what, it would really be nice to go by myself, but I never had the guts to do it. And finally, I took a chance and I did it, and I'm not looking back on it. And I'm moving forward. I learned my mistakes with, going at the wrong time, but out of all my vacations, that was the best vacation I've ever had. Looking to go to Walt Disney World solo or any Disney park solo, I say go for it. You won't regret it at all. It's the best experience and you'll have the time of your life. So hopefully I helped you, get over that fear or give you some little, insider tips as to how to do Disney solo. So hopefully you like this video and I'll see you in the parks.